so anonymous with the... No, I can't do that.
Like and subscribe.
Not so anonymous with Eze Eureka.
This podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Village Sports at 941 West Pacheco Boulevard. Village Sports carries a wide variety of skate gear and skate apparel, everything from your skate decks to your clothing. They carry brands such as Huff, Vans, Thrasher, on and on. They also carry a wide variety of sports apparel, jackets, hats, beanies, all your new era fitted caps. You can also, whether you're looking to get yourself a fresh white tee for the weekend or a pair of Air Jordan 1s, retro Jordan 3s, he's also carrying a wide variety of Easy Boost and all your Vans shoes and needs. Go visit our friend James and make sure you check out his Instagram at Village Sports. They also have a Patterson location located at 1040 West Las Palmas Avenue, Suite A2. That Instagram is Village Skate Shop, at Village Skate Shop. Hey, thank you, Village Sports. All right, guys, we're here, and we got Chris Leban, man. Hey, first of all, thank you for doing this. Mm-hmm. Again, like we were talking about off camera, this is kind of a surreal thing, you know, when you see somebody in a certain light for a long period of time, and then you sit down to interview them, right? So it's kind of a surreal moment here, you know, and beyond anything, whether it be like the heights that you reached or whatever that was, you know, us in recovery, it's one big fellowship, mm-hmm. right? And it's an honor to have you on here.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for having me, you know, and yeah, anytime I can, you know, hopefully help inspire or, you know, tell my story, what, you know, kind of what I've been through, and you know, show that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I always want to do it.
Awesome. Yeah. So I usually like to ask people, like, the first thing is, what's your clean date?
June 10th, 2018. And
what does that mean to you?
Well, complete abstinence from drugs and alcohol. It should be a lot earlier than that. You know, I definitely took a stab. You know, I made it about a year. So sobriety a little over a year. Then I relapsed, and then I made it 9 months, and then I relapsed again, and now, you know, I'm about 4.5 years. 4.5 years on the road, and you know, one day at a time, of course. But you know, I feel like you know, the hardest parts of getting sober are behind me. You know, it only seems to get a little bit easier every day. You know, I'm learning how to live life. You know, like a regular person.
Yeah. Deal
with shit when it comes up. Emotions, you know, all that stuff that I never dealt with. You know, I'm slowly but surely getting better at doing that sort of stuff, adulting, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's funny when you said that, I started thinking about this speaker I heard once, right? Because I always kick myself. You know, I first tried to get clean at 24, mm-hmm. right, and then I didn't get clean until 34. And I heard this guy said, you know, if you're waiting on a check, right, but it doesn't come in the mail for another 10 years, it's not like you ain't going to cash it. So quit kicking yourself about it, right? And it's funny with me, little things like that stick in my head. But so, like, I always like to, because people looking at this, they may see us and they'll be like, oh, man, these guys don't look like me. They don't look like drug addicts. They don't look like alcoholics, right? Right? They look like they got their shit together. So, like, what was life like for Chris Leban coming up, man? How did that become your normal?
Getting loaded?
Or just, you know, even before that, like what made that feel like that was the solution to your problems?
It was the solution. It was the cause and the answer of every problem in my family and everybody around me. You know, I grew up in a more or less in a meth house, real poor. You know, when I started drinking at a young age, my mom had no problem giving us alcohol. You know, My Christmas tree was a pot plant with, you know, those little airplane bottles of booze hung on it, you know, and those were no problem to grab, you know. So and it worked for everybody else, and I'll be damned if it didn't work for me too.
Yeah.
You know, it worked well for me as a kid. You know, I've always suffered with social anxiety. A lot of people find that hard, you know, because you know, a lot of people know who I am or whatever, but it's always been an issue. And as a kid, I didn't know, and in high school, I didn't know. But what I figured out, what works great for social anxiety is getting loaded.
Yeah.
You know, getting drunk, and you know, then all of a sudden, you know, I thought I was a cool kid, you know, and I thought I was funnier, you know, and I was hitting on the chicks, and you know, you don't realize that you're being a complete idiot, you know. But yeah, that more or less was the case, you know, for starting. I mean, you know, if you really want to go back, you know, middle school was weed and booze, and then I got into mushrooms and LSD, and then as I got older, you know, after my brief stint in the military, which I'm sure you read about in the book, you know, I started selling used cars. And again, that anxiety would come back, and I figured out that, you know, when I had to talk to strangers, I figured out that a Vicodin or a Percocet would fix that, you know? You know, I could pop a Vicodin or a Percocet, and people couldn't tell that I was drunk, because if I drank on the job, people knew. Yeah. But if I took a couple pain meds, you know, all of a sudden I was a smooth talker. I wasn't all red-faced, you know. Nobody really knew, at least in the beginning. Yeah. You know, at least that's what I thought. You know, and then, you know, as time went on and I got into my fighting career, you know, I used to tell people that I took these pain meds, you know, my doctor gave them to me because I got hurt, and that's how I got into it. When it's not true, you know. The truth is, pain meds will help you for a hurt knee. Pain meds, I thought, used to help me for a bitchy old lady. They used to help me for bills I didn't pay. They used to help me when my house wasn't clean. They used to help me when I needed to train. They used to, you know, I would take them before I went out, so I didn't have to drink as much. I'd take them the next morning because I was hungover. Yeah. You know, and like I said earlier, they became the cause and the answer of all my problems.
So, like, even, you know, so you talk about, you know, going into, like, your fight career and doing all these things, you know, and how much did that reinforce the fact that you were able to use successfully? I have to imagine that, you know, in your life, you know, sample size of one, right? You see, monkey do, as kids do, right? And then you're finding these drugs are the answers to most of the problems you suffered from inside, whether it be anxiety or fear. I mean, how hard is it to realize that you have an issue with substance when you're able to climb such heights while using?
Well, you know, there's a couple answers there. One, I never realized I had any sort of an issue because, again, the way I grew up and who I grew up around, it's what everybody was doing, you know. My mom had one rule. You couldn't, you know, you're not supposed to drink till noon. You know, that was her rule, you know, with my uncles and stuff. They would break it all the time. But they would say, hey, you just can't drink till noon, and, you know, beer wasn't really alcohol anyways. So it wasn't until that first season of The Ultimate Fighter came out, you know, and all that shit went down with Josh and Bobby and me getting drunk and punching through doors and crying and making a fool of myself because I was loaded, I was belligerent, you know, that I ever realized I had an issue. Right. Which is amazing because I had done stuff like that a million times beforehand. But the difference is, you know, the stories that we'll tell ourselves. You know, it was her fault. It was his fault. This was the situation that happened. You know, because I couldn't really remember because I was in a haze. Obviously, right. You know, I would just somehow in my mind, make it out that what I did wasn't that obscene or out of hand, you know. And then being able to go back, I remember I had a bunch of my friends together, you know, we're sitting and I was more or less sober watching the show. And it was a little bit disgusting to me, you know. I kind of disgusted myself the way that I was behaving, you know. Here's this giant opportunity of a lifetime, you know, and I can't not get loaded. I might be fighting the next day, and I can't not get loaded, and everybody else is, you know, doing their interviews going, I don't know what's going on with Leben. He just keeps getting loaded. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. Like, everybody else saw it.
Yeah.
Everybody else in the house saw that I had a problem. Everybody else talked about how I had a problem. Everybody else saw that I was squandering a amazing opportunity. I, however, did not.
Right.
Not until I was able to take a step back, you know, and watch it on TV, you know, as an outside observer, did I understand that I was fucking up. So that was the first time I tried some controlled drinking.
Like a gentleman, right?
I bet you can guess how that worked out.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy, like the lies we'll tell ourselves, because here you get to see it from an outside lens, so it's easier to digest. Mm-hmm. But when you're going into this house and all these people have the same goals you have, but their lives are completely different, right? Like they're disciplined in that factor to where they aren't using all the time and drinking, and it's amazing. Like, did it dawn on you while you were in the house that maybe I have an issue because I'm completely different than every single one of these guys?
No.
It's crazy, right?
No, it didn't. I literally just thought
they're squares.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and don't get me wrong, a 21-year-old Chris Leban thought very highly of himself.
Got it.
And I had a lot of false confidence pumping through my veins, you know? And you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
You know, when you're a kid, you know? So I was like, fuck these pussies, you know? I'm going to rage and I'll still kick their ass, you know? Like, you know, these guys are weenies, you know?
That's funny because my buddy, I was thinking about when we were driving through L.A., George P., one of my predecessors, he always talks about pushing his shopping cart in L.A., and looking at all these people going to work, like, look at these squares. I'm living the life, right? So the lies that we could tell ourselves when we're in the grips of addiction.
Yeah.
You know, and for you, so you have that moment now where you're watching through a clear lens and you're seeing yourself on The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, man, he must have changed his life after that, right? I mean, like drinking like a gentleman, right? Pinky out.
Yeah, you know, and multiple times I tried. I would make it 10 days, a week, you know. Sometimes most of the time it was only a few hours, you know. But and then I had multiple other incidents in my career where I ended up trying to go to AA and you know, try, you know, after I would get arrested, I would get a DUI, I would beat somebody up, I wouldn't show, you know, and every time I would go, okay, I'm gonna get sober. I get sober for a few days and then I go, no, I'm good. I've been sober for a week now. I'm good. I just need to control it. I just need to figure out how to control it. And, you know, as you know, that's the lie we all tell ourselves. That one day we're going to learn how to manage this disease. We're going to learn how to drink responsibly.
Yes.
You know, we see other people do it, you know. So, you know, when I say I'm going to go out and have 2 beers, I'm really going to go out and have 2 beers. Even though, if I look at my track record, I have never, ever gone out and drank just 2 beers.
Yeah.
You know, I did that for many, many years. And eventually, I came to the point where I decided I was never going to get sober. You know, and I almost romanticized, you know, the drugs and the alcohol and the rock star lifestyle, you know, and I planned on dying early, you know. I just became okay with it.
So, like, you talked about going into the rooms and trying to get sober. So, like, what does that look like for you? Because honestly, like, we are all very similar in addiction, but our lives vary wildly, right?
Yeah.
And it's a process of identification, right? When we go in there, we have to identify with somebody, sometimes just at surface level, to kind of get with the flow. So, like, what does your mind state look like? I'm assuming you said after a DUI or arrest, you're probably court ordered at that point to get a court card signed or something.
Yeah.
You know, because I have a similar experience where I went in early, and I just came to the realization, I'm like, I'm not like these people, right? Because I was unable to see the similarities because I was too focused on the differences, right? And it led me out for another 9-10 years. Like, what does that process look like for you? You know, walking into these rooms and then trying to identify.
Yeah, so it wasn't hard for me. You know, like I said early on when I realized, you know, I was a alcoholic and drug addict. You know, I tried a few times, but from that point on, I was pretty much secure in the fact I knew that I was I was a drug addict. I knew I was a junkie, just to the soul. Like I never had that issue of not being able to accept that I had an issue. You know, what I had an issue with was always trying to figure out how to manage it. You know, and I've told this story before, but even in my UFC career, you know, the second I would fight, and then I would be popping those OCs before I even got to the press conference. As soon as my drug test was done, right? Then I'd get strung out on those things as soon as the fight was over, up until about 2 months out before my next fight. I get one of those big calendars like people have on their desk. I'd put it up on my wall, and I'd have it all planned out. Okay, I'm gonna go from 4 of these to 3, then I'll go to 3 of these. When I get to 2 of these, then I'm going to switch to these ones. I'm going to take 8 of these a day, and then I'm going to go down to 7, 6, 5. Then I'm going to switch down to these until it got up to the week of the fight when I was just drinking a bottle of NyQuil and taking a bunch of ibuprofen. You know, and believe it or not, that weaning myself off process actually worked for a few fights, several fights. You know, I was drinking a bottle of NyQuil the day I was fighting, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, but I was able to not be sick. You know, and that worked until it didn't.
Yeah.
You know, and then again, I'd be loaded the second the fight was over. You know, and that worked until it didn't. When I fought Mark Munoz, and you know, I ended up testing positive. You know, because I did the whole process. I got sober. Then my anxiety got too crazy, and I got into my stash the night before the fight. Even though I knew, you know, we talk about, you know, having the propensity to get tight at the exact wrong moment in time, you know, and that is absolutely my case. I knew I was going to be tested. I knew if I took those pills I was going to fail. I knew all I had to do was go to sleep and wake up and it was fight day the next day. Yet I still did it. And I got fine money. I got suspended for a year. Obviously, my name was tarnished. You know, I knew the weight of the repercussions, but I fucking did it anyway because I couldn't not do it.
Yeah.
I had to do it. That's not sane. You know what I mean? That is not. No logical person would ever, you know, and it's not that I'm dumb, you know what I mean? It's you know, it's not that I'm stupid or emotionally handicapped in any way. It's literally, I look back and I go, how would I make that choice, you know? And I go, well, because I'm a fucking drug addict.
Yeah. Well, that's what a lot of people don't realize about people like us is today we have a choice. Like, we can go out and decide whether we pick up, whether we don't, right? I know for myself, I've lost the desire to use, right? And,
Yeah.
and speaking with you before, it seems like you're at that point now where things are getting easier. But what they don't understand about people like us is one is too many and 1,000 never enough, or 1,000 we're just getting going.
Yeah.
You know, and it seems like you qualify, right?
I definitely qualify, you know, and yeah. It's like you said, the only choice I have is that first drink or that first drug.
Yeah.
As soon as that goes into my body, my freedom, my power to choose what I want is gone. My power to choose where I'm going to end up is gone. My power to control anything in my life is gone. You know.
Well, and not to shit on any, because you belong to some pretty lofty organizations, and you know fought, and it's our responsibility as addicts for our recovery. But was there any help coming down, like when you're popping for you know?
Actually, yeah. Dana White called me, you know, and he said, "Are you fucking, you know, you tested positive? What the fuck, Chris? You know, are you addicted to these things?" And I lied and said no. And then I sat there for a while. I thought about it. I called him back and I said, "You know what? I am." And he said, "All right, let's get you in rehab." You know, and that was my my first stint in rehab. You know, and I ended up on Suboxone after that. I did end up on Suboxone, which is a whole nother story.
We know what Suboxone is,
a
but for
double-edged
people,
sword.
yeah, 'cause maintenance therapy, right? Harm reduction model of
but,
treatment.
But I never took another OxyContin from that point.
Yeah.
So it may very likely they saved my life by sending me to that rehab.
Yeah, because I know, like, I hear, I'm a big MMA fan, so I hear a lot of bad stories about Dana. But it seems like these people were trying to help you figure your stuff out, which is awesome.
I mean, they sent me. I was at the nicest jail on the planet. Basically, is what I would call the rehab I went to. It was top shelf.
Yeah.
Very fancy. I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Couldn't do anything I wanted. You know, obviously, but you know, they pulled out all the stops at that place. Yeah.
Well, and so you know, it's not about where you go or when you go. You have to be ready.
Yeah.
For the help, and obviously at that point, it wasn't your time, right?
It was not my time at that point. You know, I ended up on Suboxone, which, as you know, works for pills, but it doesn't work for cocaine. So
yeah.
So that was still on the table.
Right.
You know, that was still on the table because I always told myself I could take it or leave it. You know.
So that was like the first hardcore introduction to recovery, right? It would probably be that treatment facility. So then what does that look like for you running around with a head full of recovery and a body full of dope, right? That's got to be even a harder place to be living in.
Well, you know, there was a time after I got out when I would have told you I stayed sober for a while. I was only on the maximum dose of Suboxone, 32 milligrams of Suboxone a day, and I would have told you I was sober, you know. Yeah. Of course, then I started drinking, and then as soon as I get alcohol in my body, I want cocaine. I don't know about anybody else, but that's generally how that works for me.
Yeah.
So those things came back, you know, and now I was on the Suboxone too, and there was many more years where that was the cocktail.
Yeah, the coping mechanism, the crutch, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so now we're going into your like first hardcore introduction to recovery, and then so I would imagine, like you said, you keep on going, the Suboxone, and then the alcohol, then the cocaine comes into play. So like where does like in all this while, I'm imagining you're still getting success in your fight career, and there's ups and downs, obviously, like in a fight career. But where does like that gift of desperation come into where, like, what does that look like to where you're like, man, I'm fucking done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And from what we talked about before, there's probably a moment, and then there's a slip, and a moment, and then a slip. But like, what does that look like leading up to that point? And what is that point to where you said something's got to give? I can't keep doing this anymore.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, early on, I had some success.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just being wild and not being completely strung out yet at that point, just partying. And as time went on up until the Munoz fight, which was towards the end of my career when I finally tested positive, and then things really went downhill from there. My next couple fights were losses, and all the way up until my last fight in the UFC, I finished the fight on the stool, and I've talked about this before, but that was the lowest point for me, because if you don't know what that means, it means I didn't come out to answer the bell. So I think it was round 2. I fought 2 rounds.
And for people that aren't familiar with your fight career, the one thing you never lacked was heart.
That's it. Yeah, I always fought to the death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've never tapped out in a fight, been choked unconscious, but I've never tapped out. I've never, when I go out there, I'm with the mindset that I'm fighting to the death. And so for me to not even like I tapped when I was in a bad position. It was like I just said, you know what? Fuck it, man. I've done enough. I don't want to get knocked down in front of all these people. Just give me my money so I can go back, get my dope, do what I got to do, And that was how my last fight in the UFC went. And that was a very dark moment for me. I really kind of went into a nosedive after that. I was out here in San Diego. I was in a marriage that was struggling, mainly because of my drinking and alcohol problem, Eventually she left, and then, I was trying to coach at a gym, and I got fired for showing up loaded, and then I ended up in jail. I ended up spending 6 months downtown San Diego. And, that did a couple of things for me. It allowed me to get off the Suboxone. It allowed me to really get to detox a little bit. Didn't get me sober.
Yeah.
Didn't get me sober, because the second I got out, I went right back to drinking. I never took another pill, though. You know what I mean? The nightmare of kicking in a jail cell, if anybody can imagine. If you've ever kicked Suboxone, it's the worst. You think Oxycontin or heroin is bad. Like, Suboxone is a nightmare to kick, and I did it alone on the cell, on the concrete floor for weeks, and that's all I needed. I was like, I will never take that shit again. Then it was just my true love, which is always alcohol. Everything always started with alcohol for me, and I continued to drink. Eventually, after losing everything and getting out of jail, I got a job at another gym. I would go to a noon meeting at the Alano Club down here. I would get out, I would go home, I'd buy half a pint. I would cry while I drank the half a pint, because I had to drink the half a pint before I went in to teach afternoon class, because my anxiety, just being in my own skin, was so bad that I couldn't stand in front of people unless I had something in me. I didn't want it anymore. My drinking career, although, everybody loves to tell Chris Leban stories, and there's some pretty wild Las Vegas stories with playmates and everything else, I've also ended up, under a bridge smoking crack with bums, and ultimately where I ended up was on my couch by myself. Phone wasn't ringing. Nobody wanted to hang out with me. No money in my bank account. No job to be had. No wife. She was gone. And just realizing that the booze, which was all I had now, was just the booze, and the booze was killing me. It was killing me. I tried to go. I tried to go back and fight for Bellator, and they told me my heart was damaged. Probably from the drugs and alcohol. And that was the low. That was the bottom. Ultimately was court ordered, you know. I came on a court card, you know, but I stayed.
Yeah.
But I stayed. And the funny thing is I came on a court card, but I didn't have to come every day. And I started coming every day, 5 days a week. I had a temporary sponsor for a few months. Didn't quite work out. And then I met my sponsor that I have today. So he's been working with me now for probably 6 or 7 years. You know, I've been with this same gentleman. I talk to him every day. We talk every single day still. We're best friends. You know, just like he talks to his sponsor every day. I have my life now. You know, it took several years of being sober. You know, we talk about these promises and these things that are going to come, and you know, sometimes they don't come overnight.
No.
You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, they take a second, and for me, it was hard, you know, because nobody trusted me. Nobody believed me. I had certainly said I was sober many other times before, you know. So it took a long time to really show it, but you know, ultimately, I have the best group of friends, the most supportive people that always have my back. I have faith. I have a beautiful 5-year-old boy. This gym that we're sitting in, this is mine, you know. Not much more I can ask for, man, you know. You know, I mean, we always want a little more money, you know, and you know what I mean? But to be honest, I have the love, I have the friendships, I have the career. You know, I'm now professionally reffing and judging, and I've been doing that for years. I absolutely love it. I have everything that a person could want to have a full life. My problem now is my life is too fucking full. I got too much going on. I'm getting too many texts, too many people call me in the day. Sometimes it's really overwhelming.
Yeah.
But it's all good shit. When I was getting loaded, that fucking phone didn't ring. I just look at it and watch it, and nothing would happen all day. Nobody was calling me. Nobody wanted to hang out. Now everybody's calling me. People are talking to me all the time. I've got many friends. I've got, you know, and it's just now it's like I just don't have enough time.
Yeah.
You know, I got too much life going on. And it's incredible.
So is that what helped you fall into the fellowship? Because I mean, at that time, you're sitting on your couch, nothing's going on, nobody wants you around, and yet there's these people that every time that you show up, they're probably like, hey man, keep coming back, right? Like, yeah. And I know for me at that point in my life, everybody was telling me to get lost, right? And then I got these people that I don't know, and they're happy, they're drinking probably too much coffee, you know, they're all hyped up on love, right?
Yeah.
And then they're hugging me, right? And at that point in my life, I'm like, you know, and I think these people are fucking liars. That was my process when I came in. I'm like, there's no way this dude's clean for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? How does that happen?
You know, initially, I didn't want no part of it.
Yeah.
I used to come home after these meetings and tell my old lady, I'd be like, these motherfuckers, you know, they keep fucking saying, let's go to the beach. You know, I'm like, listen, I'm coming here because I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Not because I want to make fucking friends. I got friends, you know, which wasn't true. I didn't have any fucking real friends. I had some fair weather friends, right? You know, it took a long time for me to realize that those people were genuine.
Yeah.
That because of, you know, of who I was and my history, you know, I've had to deal with a lot of fair weather friends, you know, over the years. A lot of people that said they do, you know, but really just hanging out with me to be cool. You know, so my trust level was very, very low when I got into the program. My ability to let anybody in was virtually zero. I was damaged.
Yeah.
I had been hurt too much, and I was scared to get damaged again. you know, and that took a long time.
Yeah.
It took a long time. As a matter of fact, you know, and I've talked about this plenty with my sponsor, you know, out of the 7, you know, like I said, I had a year, a little over a year, then I had 9 months. Now I have 4.5 years. Both those relapses, I think, were because I let that 12-step slip, you know, and I've talked to my sponsor about it. I just didn't want to make friends. I didn't want to get involved. And it wasn't until I finally opened up and I let some people in my life, you know. That being said, you know, and then, for example, now, you know, a little less than a year ago, I got real sick, you know, and I was in the hospital on a respirator, you know, due to COVID. All my organs shut down. They thought like 99% chance you're gonna die. It was actually greater than 99. It was like 1 in 400 that I would live. It was those guys. It was those men that I met in that program that were there for me, that took care of my family, made sure that all my T's were crossed, my I's were dotted, made sure this gym was running perfect, that had my fucking back.
Wow.
You know, and I was trying to carry everything at that point going in, and it took that almost dying for me to realize that finally that these people really do care. There really are good people out there, you know. And you know, now I've really learned, you know, I've learned that my homies got my back. I've learned that God's got my back, and I've learned that you know, it's my job to just do the work.
Yeah.
It's my job to do the work, and everything else ain't fucking up to me, you know? Let the rest of it go. That was a hard lesson for me. It took a lot longer for me to figure that out. But God, once you figure that out, life is so much better. When you're trying to fix everything and you're trying to carry everything, and I had a hard time ever relying on anybody or anything. It's, you know, life is unmanageable.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Left to our own devices, we're bound to fuck some shit up pretty good.
100%. 100%.
Another thing I want to ask you about too is because typically, and from listening to you talk, we come into this thing with a lot of crossed wires, right? You know, a lot of the things that we learned through our lives led us to certain patterns, right? Like I have a guy in my sponsorship family, and I don't know if he coined the phrase, but he's a pretty famous speaker. But he always talks about first thought wrong, right? And I suffered from this first thought wrong for a long time. And before I made any major decisions, I would always call my sponsor, right, and be like, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking," right? And
no,
yes, yeah, right. You know, or he would simply tell me, "Let me know how that works out for you," right? And when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, I'm on the wrong track here."
Yeah.
So, like, what does that look like for you? Because I'd imagine when you come in, you're full of self-will, right? Because you've done things a certain way, and a lot of times it worked out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what does that look like for you having to check in with another man? Like, hey, is this right? Is that, like, did that take a long time for you to you know, start trusting yourself is what I'm getting at. Like, how long did it take for you to start, you know, trusting that, you know what, I am capable of making decisions on my own, and they're turning out pretty good. And I know we still check in, right? Like you said, you talk to your sponsor every day, but how long did it take you to learn to trust yourself?
Oh, I still don't.
Okay. There it is, right?
You know, what took me a long time was learning to take anybody else's advice on anything.
Yeah.
To even consider it. You know, I continue to second guess myself, something that I'm working on, you know. However, I've learned that, you know, in life, sometimes hard decisions have to be made.
Yeah.
Right? The trick is to think about them, pray about them, take a step back, wait for an answer to come, and then when you get your answer, you run with that answer.
Yeah.
You don't look back. And if it's wrong, well, fuck, you readjust.
Yeah.
You know? That's what I try to do now. I will say that I definitely still have an issue with second guessing and overthinking, you know? But just like I would tell a guy that's fighting, I would say, listen, man, win or lose, as your coach, we're going to go back, we're going to watch the fight, we're going to say what worked, what didn't work, what needs improvement.
Yeah.
You know? And doesn't matter how far down the road you are, how long you've been sober, you're not fucking perfect.
Yeah.
You know, you're constantly should be going, what's working, what's not working, what needs improvement. Yeah. You know, do I need to make an amends here? You know, all that stuff that we do. You know, and so my answer, you know, for now is, yeah, I'm still working on that one.
Yeah, as we all are, right? You know, and it's funny because I, listening to your book, you identified, and you said a lot of shit's changed since you wrote that book, but you identified yourself as a spiritual atheist, and from listening to you talk, it doesn't seem that way anymore. You know, and we're all allowed to choose our own higher power, right, or what that looks like. So, I mean, is your faith in something greater than yourself led you to where you're at right now?
Yeah. My faith is strong. You know, my higher power. You know, I go to church every Sunday. You know, however, you know, I pray every night. I'm also not afraid to listen to a book on Buddhist thought or philosophy. I'm not afraid to hear what anybody else has to say. Yeah. You know, there are, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, whatever. I've met people in all those walks of life that are way fucking more spiritual than I am.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you know, I have my set of beliefs, but I also I just try to soak it in, man.
Yeah.
I try to fucking soak in all the spirit that I can get, because I need it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I need it. So.
And I'm always curious about that because mine's always evolving. Like, it's always changing, you know, because, like...
Yeah, you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of things, you know, like, so, you know, where are you in your life? What place are you at? Does your higher power need to be a fucking beach ball or a sunset? Well, whatever, man. Listen, if you can crack the door, and say, well, I guess if there was, then maybe... You know, he would try to help me out, or it would try to help me out, you know. Whatever you can wrap your fucking head around, you know, all you got to do is crack the door to that world of spirituality, and it's going to evolve from there.
Yeah.
And I can say that with conviction because I've seen it happen a million times. As long as you don't shut it off. You can just open it up a little bit, it'll evolve.
Yeah,
it'll
my
grow.
sponsor mom always says, I take a little Jesus, I take a little Buddha, a little Allah, and I mix it up in a pot, and it works, right? And so whatever works. And I'm always curious about people because I'm trying to figure it out myself, right? I'm on this journey with you, and I'm just like, what works for you, you know, because I want to know. You know, and that's just me being selfish because I'm trying to figure out what's working for everybody else because I'm no way or means got any of this shit figured it out. Right. I'm just trying to see what works for the next person.
Yeah,
you know?
that's it. You know, like from my experience, if you're willing, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a journey. It's going to be a journey. There's going to be growth. There's going to be ups and downs. But if you're willing, you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Remaining open mind. And so, like, now that you're a little further on down the process, like, what keeps you there? You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we like to tell ourselves, oh, man, now I got it figured out. I got mine. Let me just keep moving. Like, what keeps you coming back? What keeps you in the rooms? What keeps you helping other people and seeking that help? Like, what keeps you there?
Fuck, if you want me to give you the selfish answer, it's what happens when I don't.
Yeah.
You know, it's very, very simple. You know, when I don't pray, when I don't meditate, how I feel. You know, when I start skipping my meetings, when I don't have any sponsees, where my life goes. You know, we've all heard it. If you the more you want, the more you got to give away.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's very true. Listen, I fucking want it all. You know what I mean? I want everything. So that means that I've got to put my recovery first and giving back and helping other guys, number one, and staying in the herd and staying in the pack. Because, you know, where I've gone since I've been sober, where I've come from you know, losing everything and being in jail to having, you know, my own gym, my own career. One, I don't want to lose any of that, and two, I'm so intrigued at where's it going to be another year down the road.
Yeah.
What about when instead of 4.5 years sober, I've been sober for 10 years? Where the fuck am I going to be now? If I continue to do what I'm doing, stay connected and help other people the way that I am, like where's this road going to take me? You know, that to me is what keeps me going, because it's only gotten better.
Yeah.
Every day it gets a little better. Every week it gets a little better. Every year it's gotten a little better.
And so now you have your own family, right?
Yes.
You talked about having a 5-year-old boy. And for some of us, that's got to be a scary fucking thing, right? Because now we're in the process of breaking this cycle,
Yeah.
right? With no mentors besides what you've met in the rooms. Like, what does that look like for you now, being a dad, and now you're on this road to recovery, and you're learning and teaching, right? And your most important student or pupil, your son. Like, is that a scary process for you, or is it, you know, what does that look like? I don't know.
You know, you're as a parent, you're always trying to, you know, what's the best thing I can do here? You know, my son gets a lot of love.
Yeah.
And his mother is great. When he's with me, he knows my whole group are like parents to him. You know, there's 2 of us that have kids, and there's about 8 of us. So they're you know, he's got a lot of uncles and aunties that really help him out. He goes to meetings with me because I gotta go. If I got him, I'm going, and he's coming with me, and everybody. So he knows everybody. He already understands. Daddy was an alcoholic. Daddy don't drink. You know what I mean? He gets that. You know, and really, you know, I try to take advice when something comes up. You know, I try to, you know, I think about it. But, you know, I didn't have a father figure, so I didn't really have a mother figure much either. You know, I mean, she was there, but she wasn't fucking there. So, you know, I'm just fucking figuring it out as I go, man. I wish I had an answer for you, but I really, you know, just trying to give him as much love and support as possible, spoil him a little bit, but make sure he's still a good kid.
Yeah.
You know, teach him, you know, teach him right.
Well, and that's the answer, right? And the beautiful thing about recovery is being able to break that cycle.
Yeah.
Right? You're raising this child with love and affection, and you're present.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Something that you
all
weren't
things
given.
I didn't have. Yeah, all things I did not have. So yeah, winging it.
Yeah.
But you know, he's a good kid.
And that's the gift.
He's a good kid, you know, and I look at my my friends who have older kids that are further down this road, you know, and they've all got great kids too, you know. So, you know, it can be done. We can break the cycle.
Yeah. Well, that's what I don't want to share that. I was about to share something I probably shouldn't share on here. But you know, and so like before closing, right? Like, what would you tell somebody right now that might be struggling with addiction or alcoholism? What would you tell that person?
I mean, I would tell them literally what I said at the beginning of this interview, which is there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You never have to feel as bad as you feel right now. You know, if you're hungover and you're in pain and your relationships are suffering and you're on your way to jail, or the miracle is there. It's waiting for you. You never have to feel as bad as you do right this second. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, you know, we have, you know, for me, for the program that works for me, there's 12 simple steps. They're not easy steps, but they're simple ones. You know, and all you got to do is put one foot in front of the other, you know, and your life will change. Period.
Perfect. And I think that's about it, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, and this shows that you're working a program of recovery, man. Like, you don't know me from Adam, and you took your time for us and sat here with us and opened up your gym, a beautiful facility, and let us do the boxing class this morning, right? Yeah. And that was awesome, and I thank you, man. I really do.
Right on. Thank you guys for having me.
And we always end this with a hug. So I'm going to get that hug.
All right.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
There we go.
Thank you.